I get a lot of questions and comments about the light bar setup on my 4Runner, so today I'm going to go ahead and break it down, and I'm going to show you everything there is to know about it. And it's kind of hard to show everything after it's already been installed, but I'm going to do my best to try and get in there for you. I wanted to have a decent auxiliary lighting setup on the 4Runner, but I didn't want it to be really noticeable when they're turned off. So I kind of went down the road of these stealth light bar mounts. And people seem to want to give me credit for these, but in all honesty, I went on t4r.org and I followed 2 tutorial threads that other people had already come up with for these. So for starters, we got this one in the bumper. This is a 32-inch curved light bar. And I went with a curved one just because it follows the contour of this bumper a little better. It's not dead on perfect or anything, but I found in the pictures that I've seen of people putting just regular straight bars in this location, it'll usually be that these corners will stick out more, or you'll have to have the center so sucked in that it just doesn't really look right to me. You should be able to see in there, it just has the standard mounts that come on these light bars with little L-shaped brackets on them. As for the way that it actually mounts to the truck, I built my own brackets. First of all, you can see right down in here, I've got a 2-inch piece of angle iron, and it's hard to see in there because the bumper's on, but it stretches the whole way behind the light bar, and so that the way that I mounted the brackets that come with the light bar, these go directly straight back into, I basically created a wall out of the angle iron and drilled my holes wherever they needed to be in order to mount this to that. As you can see, it's getting kind of rusty in here. I wasn't concerned. This was just a simple way of putting these on. I didn't go to the bother of like powder coating everything, so you can see it got kind of rusty over time. It's been on the truck for like 2 years. So now I ran into a problem. The original write-up had, I don't know if you can see down in here, it had a series of I think 4 L brackets coming off of that angle iron and straight into holes that already existed in the bumper rebar. And I was going to do that until I got underneath this thing and found out that I don't know if anybody knew this, but apparently these Canadian 4Runners have a different bumper rebar. And the ones on the Canadian trucks, or at least on this specific one, doesn't have any holes in the back of it. It's just solid right across, which is totally different than the American one. The only thing I can figure, the only reason for that is I know that in Canada we do have slightly stiffer 5-mile-per-hour crash ratings and stuff for new vehicles. So my guess is that they had to change for the Canadian models in order to fit those rules. So I didn't really want to drill into the rebar myself, so I ended up just doing straight brackets off of that angle iron right onto this rad support here. And honestly, don't do that. I'm not happy with it. It's not strong enough. Like it's holding on strong enough. It's not going anywhere, but it does wiggle, especially if you're going down a rough road or highway, or especially off-roading. It's got some wiggle to it, and I'm not happy with that. I mean, most of you guys are American watching this, so you don't have to worry about it. You can just follow that tutorial to a T. You'll be fine. But for any fellow Canadians that want to do this, if you do have that same bumper rebar that I have, then I would probably just go with some pre-made mounts, like from Cali Raised LED or something. And I might just go that route myself. But anyways, that pretty much sums up the whole bumper light. That gives you an idea of how that's mounted. Another thing worth mentioning is on these facelifted 4Runners that have the newer front end, like with the projector headlights and everything, this plastic trim piece that normally goes in here just simply unclips out of the bumper. You don't have to do any cutting or anything. Now for 03 to 05 models, I believe that plastic grill that's in here is actually a part of the bumper, so you're gonna have to actually cut that out. Or you can space everything and have it keeps the light like behind the grill, so it's hidden back there even more. The roof light, this is a 40-inch single row, and this one specifically is sold by a company called Totron, I think. And despite being a single row light, I would say it's actually brighter than the dual row in the front bumper. this just seems to be a better quality light overall. It's brighter, it seems a little bit better made. Now for mounting on top here, the key to mounting up top like this is you don't want the typical L-shaped brackets on each end of these, on this light. As you can see, it has sort of an insert that slides along these grooves, and that's the mounting style that you need for this kind of a setup. Now as far as the brackets go for mounting this thing up here, see if I can actually climb up here. Some dummy took the running boards off of this thing. Okay, so this is how it's mounted. You can see across the other side. I just have about a 6-inch L bracket that mounts directly to the brackets on the light itself, and it comes along here, and it runs, basically mounts the same as the cross rails do on the factory roof rack. The trick for mounting things this way is with what they call draw bolt kits that you get from the hardware store, and it's basically just an insert that you can, it's like a threaded plate that you can stick inside of the roof rail, that then you have something to screw, see if I can get at it, that you can screw these bolts into, and it just kind of wedges itself inside the rail. You can actually loosen those off and you can slide this kind of back and forward wherever you want it to mount. But yeah, your sunroof fully functional still, cross rails fully functional still, and my feet are getting tired and I'm about to fall off the side of this thing because I'm an idiot. I'm gonna go ahead and put links to the tutorial threads on T4R down in the description for you guys. You can follow those, and it explains everything with pictures and everything. That it makes it real simple to follow. Shows you exactly which parts to get, which bolts, which brackets, all that stuff. So go ahead, head down there, check them out. Now you'll notice, let me just get you up there so you can see, that on that light and also on the light on the bumper, I have no condensation inside. And maybe there's a chance that I just got lucky with a good batch of 2 completely different lights from 2 different companies. But I've never had condensation in my light bars for one good reason. Before I mount these light bars, all of these little screws, I always go over them and double check and make sure that they're tight. And most of the time, they're not all tight. Some of them are like really loose. Some of them are just a little bit loose. But I go through and torque them down and make them all proper. And I've never had water condensation built up inside a light bar. But basically, most of these light bars come to you with, much like myself, they got a few screws loose. Alright, onto the wiring, and you'll have to excuse me because I haven't cleaned my engine bay for like 2 years. That'll be on the list of things that we do in the 4Runner TLC series coming up, so stay tuned for that. So what I did for the wiring of each light is I went ahead and just ordered the wiring harness that each seller included with the light when you bought them on Amazon or eBay or wherever. And I know there's definitely much better ways of doing this and cleaner ways of wiring and all that, but this is just a simple way. I'm not really an electronics guy myself. I don't really enjoy playing with wiring and stuff like that. And so this kind of gave me a head start by having an existing harness to work with. And they each come with, you got a fuse and then you got an inline relay as well, which are both really important for your lighting. So all I did was the positives are mounted straight to the positive, obviously, negatives to the negative. You can run this and ground it wherever you want. I mounted the relay over here. There's another relay down there. Now for the bumper light, I actually ran the wire right here, and it runs along behind here and right down. That's a fairly straightforward one. This is wide open here on the front bumper. That's easy to get to. Now for the roof light, that one's a different story. In that case, the wire for the roof light comes along and underneath the trim piece on the firewall, which now I see is falling off over there. Then it comes down in, back in behind here. I tucked it in behind this windshield molding and ran it all the way up underneath here. and it continues on and actually cut into the roof cap here. And again, there's better ways of doing that. But this roof cap was already split. It was already damaged, and I thought, like, I got nothing to lose. I may as well just cut a little notch into the split. Ran it in there, a little silicone, seals it up, it's good. And then it runs into the roof cap. And I don't know if you can see from this side, but I pulled the cap off and it runs into the cross rail then, in behind here, and then into the light itself. So that's how I got power to these lights, each one. Now for the switches, I ran the wiring into that grommet and the firewall down there, into the cabin. And then it comes out underneath the dash. I hit it up and underneath this console here. And then it goes straight to these two switches right here. These are OEM Toyota style buttons from Mick Tuning. Super simple design. Since I deleted the air suspension, I had two blank spots there, and it worked perfectly. So it's nice because if you have your arm rested on the armrest, then it's literally at your fingertips for on and off. Now, as far as the other lighting on this thing goes, I did upgrade the headlights to LED bulbs. Again, just cheap ones from, I think they were from eBay. They weren't the ones that have the fans built into them. They were the older design, which I think it's kind of harder to find those ones now. These are the OEM headlights. This is just the stock projector from the facelifted Model 4Runner. And I didn't go with HIDs for a couple of reasons. First, my biggest one is that I didn't feel like spending hundreds of dollars on a big top-of-the-line setup that's going to work perfectly and everything. I think these were like $60 for a pair of bulbs. In my experience, the lower-end HIDs, I have them in the MR2, and it's always a pain because it seems like every other time you start the car, only one of them wants to fire, and you got to flip the lights on and off. It's the stupid little song and dance you got to do. These LEDs definitely, they put out more light than the stock setup, but they're not anywhere near as powerful as an HID setup, I'll admit that. But for me, I don't really care that HIDs are better because in my situation, a really bright headlight is going to do nothing but just blind people in the city. I don't care, even if you have perfect projectors, if it's a bright light, it's a bright light. You're going to be blinding people. And in the city, I don't need... Oh, yeah, just go ahead and fly through my shot, bud. And in the city, I really don't need bright headlights because you got street lights everywhere, and I don't need crazy high-powered headlights to see where I'm going. And for when I do go out into the country, onto the back roads where I do need bright lighting, well, I've got plenty of light bar action going on that they're going to be brighter than any HID setup in a headlight. So I feel like I've got all the bases covered there, and there's not really any need to have super bright headlights for me. As for the fog lights, these things are still stock. I haven't upgraded these at all. Mainly for the same reason again, because I've got the light bar right there. I'm not sure how much I would really benefit from upgrading these, but I don't know, I've thought about it. What do you guys think? Should I upgrade the fog lights or just leave them alone? I don't know. And the only other lighting update that I did was in the interior. I just did one of those generic eBay LED conversion kits. It does like the dome, and it does the door lights, and just the usual stuff inside there. They're all pretty much the whatever 168 bulbs or 192 or whatever they are. The little peanut lights. So I swapped to those, and not because they're brighter, because if anything, they're the same or duller than the stock lights, but it just kind of gives it a bit more of a modern feel in here when you've got more of a whitish, bluish light inside as opposed to just the OEM yellow. And then along with the interior lights, then I also upgraded the license plate lights because, you know, us city slickers, we got to have our fancy white LED license plate lights. So that's about as far as I can go during the daytime here. We're going to pick this video up again at nighttime, and I'll show you what these lights look like, how they perform, give you a better idea of what it's like using them. So let's wait till it gets dark and we'll get back into this thing. Alright, now as you can see, I'm just driving with just the headlights and the fog lights on right now. And actually, I should turn these off so you can see how dark it is. It gives you an idea of how dark it is out there. So that's the headlights on. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the bumper light on. And now the roof light. That's the difference it makes having all these lights on. Now, one downside to having the light mounted to the roof rack, I'll show you. When you open the sunshade, as you can see, it comes right in there. So if you're gonna have it running, you gotta close that down. But yeah, you can see that's how the lights and the switches light up. And that's just headlights, and that's all the light bars. So that's about everything there is to know about the light bar setup on the 4Runner. If you have any more questions, feel free to let me know down below. But aside from that, remember, rust is just Mother Nature's Loctite, boys. I'll catch you on the next one.